what matters is not so much even the words on the page and how they look, but how the words sound to my ear. And I think for me that is deeply rooted in the fact that I come from a part of the world, a part of the country, a community that for the longest time thrived and survived, really, both on very rich and vibrant oral storytelling traditions. So for the longest time, our reservoirs of history, our sense of ourselves, who we were, our connections with the world, were all told and retold. They were sung, they were made into poetry, they were made into song, they were spoken. Yeah. And I grew up in a place which is judged very harshly for not having a bookshop. Yeah. We sometimes go to places and say, oh, how bereft this town must be. It doesn't even have a bookshop. And I did the same for the longest time because I had a convent school education, and then I was shifted off to DU, and I had a very script text heavy education. I teach creative writing, but how do we begin our classes? We begin by sitting and telling each other stories. Because for me, language slowly became not about, or not only about, what lies on the page or on a screen or something that lives outside the body, but it became slowly about something that lives right here, that is shaped and exists because of breath, because of your heartbeat, because of the rhythms of your body. How long you can hold a breath determines the pauses in your language, right? So for me, it's not about English and Khasi, although that is the long post-colonial debate. It's about how do I bring breath into my language? How do I bring sound, a soundscape into what I'm writing? How do I evoke a rhythm and a cadence in the sentence that is pleasing not just to the eye, but to the ear? And for me, that's where the potential and the richness lies.